Wow, I can't thank you all enough for the warm reception of the last video on how to speedrun DKC 1. It was a neat idea for those that are interested in dipping their toes into speedrunning, and it seems like most people really enjoyed it. Make sure you check it out in case you missed it. Who knows, maybe we'll see more of this type of thing covering other games in the future. But today we're continuing the series with Donkey Kong Country 2, which is not only my favorite game of all time, but probably the speed game I've had the most fun playing through over the last few years. As many of you know, we used to do DKC 2 races for charity during Donkey Kong Month, and that blossomed into a real thirst for getting better at running the game. And now it holds a very special place in my heart. Personally, I enjoy it even more than DKC 1 speedruns, and it has an equal amount of wild and crazy tricks throughout. So just like last time, I thought it'd be interesting to see what an average run looks like, even if you've never speedran a game in your life. So welcome to the beginner's guide of how to speedrun DKC 2 Diddy's Kong Quest, any percent category. Let's kick things off by talking about the basics. Obviously, this time around, Donkey Kong has been replaced with Dixie, which means that unlike the original, now there actually is good reason to switch Kongs and use each of their unique abilities. Diddy may still be faster, especially for rope climbing, but Dixie's hair twirl comes in handy all over the place. Plus, you now have the team-up toss maneuver, which is used pretty often throughout the run. Each level ends with a target that you jump on, but if you get enough height, it triggers a fancy little fanfare that wastes several seconds. So the best thing to do is to hit the target low enough that you skip this whenever possible. That being said, occasionally you'll have no other choice but to sit through it, like after a boss battle. So it's important to know that Dixie's guitar solo is significantly shorter than Diddy's boombox beat, which means that you'll always want to end a boss fight with Dixie in front. But even switching Kongs can waste a little bit of time, so a neat little trick you can do is called goal swapping. If you land just beyond the end target and press select to change Kongs, it'll register the other Kong being on the target immediately, and do a much faster transition than normal while also exiting the level. This is used a few times to set up certain Kongs being in front for future stages. Finally, as I said last time, button inputs are on screen so you know exactly what I'm pressing to do certain tricks, and the overall goal of this video is to just get you started. So I won't be going over every single trick, especially the more complex ones, but if you're invested and want to become more advanced, I'll link some resources at the end for you. Let's dive into the first world of Gangplank Galleon. In DKC 1, there were a ton of warp barrels scattered throughout the different areas you would visit to skip to the end of levels. But here in DKC 2, all of them are in the first two worlds. Each stage has a warp barrel hidden somewhere, so really you just need to know where to find them. Here's the first one in Pirate Panic. The second one in Mainbrace Mayhem is underneath the first platform, and requires a cartwheel jump by Diddy to reach. Gangplank Galley's warp is right next to the bonus barrel at the very start of the stage. Use a team-up toss to reach it. In Lockjaw's Locker, you can quickly roll through this secret pathway, then team-up toss from the ground to reach the barrel right here. And finally, Topsail Trouble's warp is right underneath you at the start. Finish things off with a goal swap by jumping past the target and switching to Dixie for the first boss fight. Now, Crow has one of the very few elements of RNG in the run. Some of the eggs he launches are fake and won't land on the platform, wasting time, but it's still pretty minimal. Start off the battle by keeping the screen as far to the left as possible, so he doesn't have to travel as far to drop an egg. Hit him with the first one and run back to the left to do the same thing again. After the second egg is where the RNG comes in. Quickly team-up toss to the nest and jump to the left to avoid damage. It's faster to be up here to knock down the eggs as soon as they spawn by gliding above the nest. Some of them may be duds, but as soon as one lands on the ground, grab it and hit him with it. Then repeat the process one more time to take him down. If he's on top of the nest, it may be better to just stay down below to ensure you don't lose a Kong. Crocodile Cauldron is much the same, but I do a bit more goal swapping here. The first warp barrel is right on the cave entrance to the left, team-up toss twice to reach the barrel. This is a big reason why it's pretty important to keep both Kongs. Getting a DK barrel wastes some time here. I swap to Diddy as I enter Cannon's Claim, because the easiest way to reach this one is by grabbing a TNT barrel and jumping over the rats to kill the Cruncha and roll into the hidden warp. Swap back to Dixie as you enter Lava Lagoon because the end requires a barrel shot at the target, which will trigger her shorter fanfare animation. The warp is right after the first clamp-on. In Red Hot Ride, hair twirl over the first gap, then team up toss with a little leap of faith off this hot air balloon to reach the next warp barrel. Swapping to Diddy is a tiny bit faster than jumping on the target normally. Finally, a quick cartwheel with Diddy at the start reaches our last warp barrel in Squawk's shaft. And make sure to switch back to Dixie one last time for the boss. Cleaver can be a little tricky. The biggest thing is making sure you don't waste any time once a cannonball spawns in to hit him. After the first 3 hits, he'll roam around freely to chase you. So work on leading him just high enough so that you can quickly hit him with the cannonball when it drops on each side. Creme Quay is where the run really takes off, and it starts with a stampede. Get it? Cause this level has a Rambi. It might seem a bit scary, but charging with Rambi over these sections is by far the fastest way. And it's really not too bad once you memorize the right times to jump and whatnot. If you're worried about dying, take it easy when you're just starting out. But once you pass the no Rambi sign and reach these back-to-back arrow barrels, team up toss Dixie into the second barrel and continue on. This sets up a super jump that Dixie can execute by taking damage with Diddy on this cloak right before the final barrel that normally takes a lot longer to complete. Instead, she'll have gained enough extra height that she can twirl her way across the entire area. Huge bonus swag if you collect the G letter. Glimmer's Galleon is one of the very few water stages in this run. The biggest thing to watch is making sure not to bump corners as you're navigating through the maze, since it'll slow your momentum completely. Rattle Battle is notorious for having terrible hitboxes with Rattly, so expect to get hit a lot. But staying in the air as often as you can is the fastest method, as well as trying to stack combos of bouncing on Kremling's heads. If you do happen to take damage and end up with only one Kong, make sure to grab the invisible DK barrel past the target, because you need both Kongs and Dixie in front for the next level. Okay, now Slime Climb has probably the hardest trick we'll cover in this video, but I promise it's the easiest of what are called wrong warps. In simplified terms, a wrong warp convinces the game that certain objects have the wrong ID number, and therefore when you enter a barrel, it'll eject you to the map screen with the level completed, as a failsafe written into the coding. To start off, we're gonna do a neat little trick that's unrelated to the wrong warp. As Dixie, roll off into the water and press B, then quickly swap to Diddy and jump back out of the water before the piranha bites you. Now, as you climb these ropes and take damage from a beetle, for some reason it gives Dixie this huge jump boost that can launch past a ton of obstacles and reach a DK barrel up and to the left. Now, here's where things get a little tricky. Face to the right as you land on the mast to spawn in the first beetle. Follow it to the left and jump on the second beetle near the edge of the screen. Pick it up, then throw and re-press Y quickly as the other beetle runs into you. If you did it correctly, as you run past the first beetle, Dixie will be holding an invisible object in her hair. There's a pretty forgiving frame window to pull this off. From here, just continue the main path and fall off the ledge to the right of the continue barrel. Follow the line of bananas and throw the invisible object to the left by letting go of Y right before you enter the bonus barrel, and you'll automatically exit the stage and be able to move on. A great way to know exactly when to throw is to follow this notch on the pole, and right as it goes off the top of the screen, throw to the left. It might take some practice, but it's a big time save, and one of the easiest, harder tricks in the game, if that makes sense. Last before Cudgel is Bramble Blast, which can be confusing if you haven't memorized where to shoot yourself, but the biggest skip is near the end of the stage. You can do a damage boost after the midway barrel to shoot through this B, but I don't recommend it until you're confident because you need both Kongs for the next part. After the clamp-on, roll off the ledge with Diddy and clear the next platform of beetles. Then team up toss and throw Dixie high to the right off the left side of the ledge. If you did it right, you'll land on the above brambles, get hit as Diddy, then jump into the last barrel of the final section, meaning you can just quickly shoot your way to the end from here and finish the level in style. There really isn't much to say about Cudgel other than making sure not to get stunned and hitting him as soon as he lands 6 times to move on to World 4. Crazy Kremland begins with Hornet Hole, so keeping Dixie out in front for the beginning might be nice, so you can skip over the sticky batches of honey with hair gliding. Be sure to go up and grab Squitter along the way because you'll need him for a really fancy skip. Just past the midway point, make some web platforms under this hook after taking out the B, jump off of Squitter with X to cling onto the hook, then jump back on Squitter, and quickly leap off of him to the right, roll through the spiny, then team up with Dixie before you reach the honey. the screen will start to auto-scroll without having to move. And if you jump as you pass over the crook and throw Dixie as you move, you can speed right by this whole section. It's kinda crazy. In the final stretch, bounce off this final crook to reach an easier alternative up top. And congratulate yourself on doing the scrolly scroll glitch. Yeah, that's the official name. Target Terror is an auto-scroller, which means it's a great time to read some donations. Now, in Bramble Scramble, there's a wrong warp that can skip the whole stage, but I definitely don't think you should give it a go right away. It's probably one of the hardest tricks to pull off. It can be a pretty punishing stage otherwise though, so make sure you give your Squawks ability some practice. Pro tip, you can rest on the brambles below you without taking damage. Rickety Race has a hidden barrel if you go backward at the starting line that blasts you ahead at breakneck speeds, which is great because it finishes the level faster, but it makes it much harder to react to the obstacles in your way. 200cc, too fast! The hardest part for me was the number 2 position Kremling. If you jump too late, you can land right down a pit. Same thing, practice is a good call for this one. I affectionately refer to the next stage as Butthole Marsh, because it's also pretty unforgiving, but there is an invincibility barrel off the top of the screen where this lone banana hints at, making the following section of mini Neckies much easier. If you're feeling adventurous, you can even jump on the heads of the later Neckies too, to get through unscathed. Finally, Ramby Rumble starts with a team-up throw super jump, by tossing your buddy into a clamp-on, then jumping right as the Kong returns to you, to reach the hook up to the left. If you don't get a high enough jump here, a backup strat is on the next ledge, by damage boosting on another clamp-on after tossing a Kong up toward a different hook here. In the final Ramby section, you can easily sprint past the onslaught of bees, by simply charge dashing and jumping. It's about as free as it gets. Have fun with it. King Zing can be scary, but if you work on getting right up behind him and shooting him in the stinger, it's pretty straightforward. Press toward the bottom right after defeating him to trigger the fanfare as fast as possible. Gloomy Gulch certainly kicks things up a notch, beginning with Ghostly Grove, which is a level all about cycles and execution. There isn't a lot of crazy tricks, but it's probably my favorite stage in the run, because it shows off exactly how great of a speed game DKC2 is. Unlike other games where certain objects load in at the start of a level, the sprites you'll interact with in Donkey Kong Country are loaded as you approach them within the stage. So if you're going through at a brisk pace, the ghost ropes will appear at just the right time so you won't have to wait for them to reappear. All enemies and items behave this way in the DKC series. It's like they designed the levels with speed in mind. I just love it. Near the end, a cloak will try to disrupt your flow, but you can just look to the left to despawn him and continue to the exit. Haunted Hall is not only an auto-scroller, making it a great time to read some more donations, but it also has a couple important spots to keep in mind, like these bees that have a tight jumping window, jumping up slopes and into doors to save frames, and this right here. Don't jump to cross this gap, otherwise you'll enter a bonus room and waste a ton of time. And especially don't do what I have done and out of gut reaction to my mistake, jump again to enter the second bonus room to waste even more time. Yeah, I'm still bitter about this one. Gusty Glade will definitely try to ruin your day with wind physics, but I prefer to use Dixie in this stage for that extra cushion of maneuverability. Especially near the end of the stage, once you reach this peak, you can simply jump and glide all the way to the target. Beautiful. Okay, now Parachute Panic is probably the most terrifying looking stage, and certainly was a reason that I hesitated to start speedrunning DKC2 in the first place, but it looks a lot more menacing than it actually is. Basically, it's way too slow to beat the level the normal way, so instead you need to just fall down the pathways avoiding bees and obstacles. A lot of this will come down to memorization, but also utilizing DK barrels to damage boost through tough spots. For example, the ending is probably the most important part, and definitely looks the coolest. As Dixie, jump off the final parrot and glide past the first row of bees. Then run into the bee in this corner and let Diddy bonk his head on the roof above. Then with invincibility, fall to the left, hugging the wall until the shaft opens up. Then move to the left again after you pass the second row of bees to finish the stage without getting stung to death. Whew, way to go. Now calm yourself down because Webwoods is a similarly daunting task to overcome. But a neat trick that helped me out was that Squitter can make web platforms instantaneously underneath him if you press L and R at the same time, as long as it's when you're moving upward instead of down. This can save a lot of time since you'll be making so many platforms, but it certainly can be frightening as a wrong move means instant death. Other than easily skipping this section of Neckies by going up higher, the rest of the stage comes down to, you guessed it, practice. The creepy crow fight was one I hated as a kid, but it's not too terrible to speedrun. You can line yourself up to hit the correct Neckie much faster, and make sure to have Diddy for the rope climbing sections, otherwise these flying eggs could be a bit of a problem. Switch back to Dixie for the final phase, and you are on your way to the last full world. As you enter K. Rool's Keep right off the bat in Arctic Abyss, you want to jump up to the ledge on the right and bounce off the clobber to reach a shortcut and then enter the Enguarde barrel. The key here is to charge at the right times to clear large sections as fast as you can. Use that shish kebab nose to your advantage. In Windy Well, there's a couple tiny little skips, like moving underneath this wall of bees by holding to the left, or damage boosting on this section at the top of the bees to jump up high and skip a large batch of the stage. The important thing here is to finish with both Kongs, so be very careful at this part. I always got hit when I was starting out. If you do happen to lose a Kong, go back to the start of Arctic Abyss and grab a DK barrel. Then start select out to the map screen. Castle Crush has one of the easiest skips in the entire game, and it saves the most time of anything. Right at the start, it'll give you a DK barrel, but you're gonna wanna keep that barrel alive by either placing it down and not holding Y, or holding onto it and not jumping on enemies. Just be sure it won't get crushed from the walls, and do your best to ensure its survival until you reach this section of bees. Then pick up the barrel, hug the wall to the left, and simply set it down and quickly repress Y right as this chain is exiting the bottom of the screen. If you did it correctly, Diddy will pick up an invisible item. Then run into the Spiny that enters from the right, and it'll glitch out the level and bring the target straight to you. No, really. Now stay to the left to make sure you don't get stuck underneath and exit the stage. Not too much to say about Clapper's Cavern. There's an invincibility barrel before the final stretch, which can make it a lot simpler, but personally I just grab a barrel with Diddy and run through, killing a bee, then ducking under the last section since I was able to keep my momentum and finish strong. Toxic Tower can be tricky, but there are a couple tiny skips you can do, like jumping with Rattly at the peak of his little bounce to reach certain ledges without having to do a charge jump. Other times you will need to hold A for a giant leap, but make sure you don't let go too early, otherwise you'll just have to do it again. I take a damage boost on this last section of bees with Squawks because the rest of the stage is smooth sailing. You just do some quick webs with Squitter along the left wall and prepare yourself for the final gauntlet. Your last roadblock before K. Rool is Screech's Sprint, which certainly can be nerve-wracking. Start off the stage with Dixie and damage boost into the thorns before the line of clingers, to roll through them with Diddy using your invincibility frames. If you scroll the screen to the left before moving past the Ninetales, you can roll through them as well. In the final race, you can maneuver above Screech to not activate the countdown lights, but it's very dangerous because you might take damage and not have a safety net for the rest of the race. Instead, I just move ahead regularly, then go to the left to reach some barrels that blast you far ahead from your competition, making the stress go away a little bit of having to beat your opponent. Instead, I put all that focus on staying alive. You finally made it to Captain K. Rool, a ruthless 3.5-minute duel that you can't really skip. But there are a couple things that can make it easier for you. I normally have Diddy out in front because while it's a little harder to avoid cannonballs with him, Dixie is your fallback in case you do get hit, and she can dodge them with ease. Basically, it helps to have her in reserves instead of potentially losing her first. In the purple reverse controls phase, you can team throw over the entire section to avoid it. Then just hold to the left as Diddy while K. Rool does his final sucking attack, and he'll never catch you. Even if you do accidentally get hit by the purple goo, you can just hold to the right instead of the left, and then grab the last cannonball to finish a Donkey Kong Country 2 speedrun. You did it! Enjoy those well-earned credits, my friend. A few final thoughts. Obviously, if there's anything to take away from this tutorial, it's that practice is key. Just like DKC1, the less you die or take unintentional damage, the more time you will instantly save. It just takes the effort to get there. I hope you enjoyed a brief look at all the wacky stuff you can do in this game. It's an incredibly fun and rewarding run to play through. As I said at the beginning, there are a lot of even harder and more in-depth tricks that you can look into if you're interested at dkcspeedruns.com. I can't plug this site enough. It's unbelievably helpful with in-depth guides for every stage, even including different difficulty levels for those just starting out or veterans wanting to perfect their craft. I genuinely believe that the DKC series is a perfect diving in point if you've never speedran a game before, and I hope that you give it a try yourself. Thanks for watching Donkey Kong Month this year. It was really enjoyable for me to do something totally different. I stream all the time over on twitch.tv/snowmangaming, so be sure to follow there and maybe you'll catch me running DKC2 in the near future. I'm also planning on doing a stream here on YouTube of running DKC 1 and 2 back to back to finish off the month of celebrating all things Donkey Kong. You won't want to miss it, so stay tuned. I'll see you guys next time. Stay frosty, my friends.